Hi, everybody, and welcome to The Balancing Act. I'm Julie Moran.
And I'm Olga Villaverdi. We're talking health this morning.
Yes, if you have a recurrent or chronic infection of any kind, there's a better and more precise diagnostic tool that you can have access to.
We're on location in Arizona with more, plus an imaging device designed for early intervention in wound healing.
And switching topics, we all want more flavor, right? Well, Chef Ralph is in the kitchen and he is working his magic.
I've got something cheesy and indulgent heating up here in the kitchen. And no, ladies, this time it isn't me. Stay tuned for more.
It all starts right now. If you've been suffering from a recurrent or chronic infection, you're not alone.
In fact, if that infection is a urinary tract infection or UTI, the numbers may surprise you. It's estimated that 150 million UTIs occur yearly worldwide, accounting for $6 billion in healthcare costs.
Today, we're sharing a very personal story of one woman who's been suffering from UTIs for nearly 45 years.
Beth Troutman is on location in Phoenix, Arizona with more.
That's right, Olga. Can you imagine having UTIs for 45 years and not knowing why? But today, Raylene Billerbeck is feeling hopeful thanks to a new technology called Next Generation DNA Sequencing. It's an innovative diagnostic tool that's giving patients and doctors the answers they need.
It started in my early 20s, and chronic urinary tract infections from early 20s till now.
Since the early 70s, Raylene Billerbeck has been suffering from UTIs, a chronic condition that has taken a toll on her entire life.
The only way that they could diagnose me was with the scope, and then I would get treatment. But after, I would keep going back, not feeling well, knowing that I had an infection, and then they would do the urine culture. The urine culture always came back negative, so I would not get medicine. So I'd stay home until I was bleeding, go back, and then the urine culture would test positive, and I would get antibiotics.
So you would have to wait until it was really severe because these urine cultures were coming back negative.
Yeah, there were many, many infections where I was just bleeding heavily.
Enduring the pain and discomfort, she always felt exhausted and drained physically and emotionally. The UTIs continued, and after 20, 30, even 40 years, it affected her professionally and personally.
I had gone to 2 doctors. They were both in Arizona when we moved here. They both scoped me, so they saw what my bladder looked like, right? They saw the infection, and they treated it. But then over time, I would keep going back saying, I have an infection, I don't feel well, and get negative results. And they both gave up on me. They both actually said, it's all in your head.
All right, Raylene, how are you doing?
I'm okay. I've had a few bad days, but I'm doing okay.
Dr. Roscoe Nelson has been a practicing urologist for almost 20 years. And like a lot of doctors, he had to rely on traditional cultures to diagnose the cause of infections. And unfortunately, those cultures were not useful.
For hundreds of years, we have, at least since the late 1850s, the only thing we've had to diagnose a urinary tract infection is a culture. And we know that cultures only grow out about 1% of all the known bacteria and fungi that we know about. For years, it's been very frustrating. Patients would come in and they'd had UTI symptoms. You knew they had a UTI, they knew they had a UTI, and yet the culture was negative, and you were stuck not knowing how to treat them.
Until now, an exciting new technology called Next Generation DNA Sequencing, an innovative tool that is giving doctors and their patients the answers they need.
This is great technology, and I've been working with MicroGenDX for about 4 years. And what they do is they'll take whatever sample it is, whether it's urine or whatever body part that they're worried about being infected, and they're doing some really incredible things with bone, with joints, with prosthesis, with other parts, with wound infections. But from a urologist standpoint, they'll take the urine and they will look at it, and their technology is able to get an exact sequence of DNA, compare it to this catalog of over 30,000 known bacteria and fungi, and tell you exactly what is in the urine.
Precise data that is giving doctors a more accurate diagnosis.
How does next generation DNA sequencing use DNA to help identify some of these issues?
Just like I have my own DNA and you have your own DNA, and it's like a fingerprint. It can identify you exactly what you are, who you are, and defines you. Bacteria and fungi have DNA, and we can identify exactly who they are, what their tendencies are, what they're sensitive to. So we don't have to guess. We don't have to say which bacteria is going to grow out on the culture or guess what's going on. We can send this test in, and it doesn't care. It's going to look at all the DNA, select it out, identify it, compare it to a huge database of bacteria and fungi, and tell us what it is.
The right tool that provides the right key to unlock the door to some much needed answers.
MicroGenDX has set it up so I can send a urine off, and it doesn't matter what I order. I don't have to pick which test to order. It just tells me what's there. It looks at the DNA, compares it to the catalog, and says, this is what you have, this is what you need to treat with, and it makes it easy. Most patients I see that have these recurrent urinary tract infections have been to their primary care physician, they've been to their gynecologist, they've been to a dozen urgent care centers, and they're just going on this merry-go-round. And what we're thinking is, we're just going to do the same thing with the same information, and the results are going to change. It doesn't work that way. And so what this does is it gives us new information, new targets to aim at, and helps us be more successful, and gets them off that merry-go-round of antibiotic pain,
Which must be a relief for these patients.
It's huge for the patients. They get their life back.
Like Raylene, who is feeling better, looking forward, and finally, after so many years of suffering, living life to its fullest.
All these years, I haven't had much hope. I'm like, just don't go back in the revolving door. Just don't get back in there. And now I think there's hope. I mean, especially talking to Dr. Nelson, we've got things we can try now, and we can try them, and we can now actually see if they're working or not. Before, we were just like in the dark. Are we getting results or not? So I know that's invaluable, and I am really grateful to have that.
Thank you so much for sharing your story with us. You are an amazing woman.
Oh, well, thank you for giving me the opportunity to talk about MicroGen.
And if you would like to learn more about next generation DNA sequencing, we'd love for you to visit MicroGenDX.com.
We also want to report that Raylene just had another follow-up appointment with Dr. Nelson to review the last MicroGenDX test results, which confirm that her bladder is clear of infection, which is great news. Her pain, her discomfort, all gone. And Raylene is feeling better than she has in many, many years. We wish her all the best. We'll be right back. Foot ulcers are common among the 30 million Americans suffering from diabetes, and according to the Centers for Disease Control, are the main cause for 85% of lower limb amputations, with the future incidence of diabetes projected to rise to over, listen to this, 500 million people worldwide over the next decade. The need for improved screening and earlier intervention in diabetic foot disease is clearly evident here. Joining us today with more on this subject is board-certified podiatric surgeon Dr. Lance Berlin from Islip, New York. Doctor, first let's talk about what causes the lower limb problems in people with diabetes.
So the two major factors that affect diabetics are peripheral neuropathy and peripheral arterial disease. That 1-2 punch is what causes the vast majority of all problems. When you don't have good perfusion or good blood flow to the tissue on the bottom of the foot or anywhere on the leg, and you add to that neuropathy where you have a loss of feeling, where people can't tell that they're actually having a problem, those two factors allow small problems to develop into much bigger problems.
Oh my goodness. Explain what a wound needs to heal, doctor.
So the most important thing a wound needs to heal is adequate blood flow, good tissue perfusion. Oxygenated blood needs to get down to the bottom of the foot to heal those wounds.
Now, when you have a patient obviously come in with this issue, how do you treat them? Are there tests that you perform?
Currently, the standard of care is ankle brachial indexes. There are some other tests that are dependent on blood pressure cuffs and putting probes on the skin, but sometimes these are user dependent, technical dependent, or because of something called stenotic vessels or calcified vessels, the tests with the blood pressure cuffs aren't always as accurate.
So definitely there is a need for improved imaging technology, and that's where HyperView comes in. How has this changed, I guess, the lives of many patients.
Right, so this is pretty impressive new technology that I've been using in the office since May of this year. I use this in two basic ways. One is as a screening tool to see if I have a patient that's high risk based on my findings from my clinical exam and other testing that we may have done. The other one is to use it on patients that already have or have had an ulceration. We could actually look at how that actual perfusion is to that specific tissue. What this allows you to do is to instantly evaluate a patient's circulation. It's basically a point-and-click spectral camera that you could evaluate any portion on the lower limb, how that tissue perfusion, how that blood flow is to that exact spot that you want to evaluate.
So it's a lot easier for you, the patient. You just take a picture and you have all the information that you need in how long?
Second.
Wow, that's fantastic.
Click the button and you'll get an image directly on the screen, and there's numerical data that will come up, and then you can evaluate that data to say whether or not that person has enough oxygenated blood, deoxygenated blood, or the O2 saturation level to that tissue.
Which is basically looking at the circulation.
Exactly what it's doing.
Fantastic. So doctor, can you explain how this information helps you then assess the next steps in care?
Yes, so the data that we're getting back from the HyperView system gives me imaging and numerical data. From that data, I could then make a decision on whether or not a wound may heal. I can also look at the numbers and say, you know what, my oxygenation or my deoxygenation or my saturation levels are too low. And from that data, I could then say, you know what, I need to get this patient more help, and I could refer them out to a vascular specialist.
Fantastic stuff. In fact, the HyperView can also be helpful for the vascular interventional specialist. The Balancing Act caught up with Dr. Pratik Gupta, a vascular surgery specialist in Memphis, Tennessee. Take a look.
So the first stage where we use HyperView is in the clinic setting. When somebody comes in and I suspect that he or she may have peripheral arterial disease, we will use the HyperView to actually take a snapshot of the foot to see how much oxygenated blood is getting to that area. If it is not enough, if it is subnormal, that basically means there is some blockage somewhere. At that point, we could either lead with a confirmatory test or directly take the patient for an intervention. So usually there are two ways to fix it. I try mostly the less invasive way, and that is we put stents, balloons, remove the plaque. That's the less invasive way. Now, the more invasive is to do an open bypass, and sometimes that's what you require because the blockage is too extensive, and then we do an open bypass surgery, and the last step is obviously amputation if nothing else can be done. If patients come in an earlier stage, the treatments are simpler, and the patient relief and satisfaction is a lot more. So I definitely think incorporating this into screening tools, screening guidelines would save a lot of patients.
Doctor, this is really amazing. It's so much progress being made and so many people benefiting from it, right?
Correct. And with this new technology, we'll be able to help save limbs, prevent amputations, hopefully prevent ulcerations and, expensive medical treatment in the hospitals.
Fantastic. Thank you so much for coming in and sharing this great information and this great new technology.
Thank you.
Appreciate your time. And for more information on the HyperView imaging system, just visit this website. It's really easy, hypermed.com. That's hypermed.com. Or you could go to our website, thebalancingact.com. All right, it's not a secret that everyone knows Julie and I love football.
As we love our football. And you know what pairs perfectly with tailgating?
What?
Delicious family-style recipes that are warm and cozy.
Here's Ralph with more, literally.
I love a good tailgate party, especially if we're having it right here in my kitchen with friends and family gathered around, watching the game on the big screen. Today, I am more than winging it with Moore's Marinades and Sauces. These marinades and sauces can be used for so much more than just wings. They add a boost of flavor to vegetables, pizza, pasta, dips. You get the idea. Today, I'm making something indulgent, hot, and yummy. Cheesy sausage pull-apart bread with mozzarella, Parmesan cheeses, bathed in Moore's hot sauce, and then baked in the oven. The cheese is oozing and the hot sauce is dripping. Let's get down to business. Now, right over here, I've got some pull-apart bread. It's the best part you get. You go to the store, you go right into the refrigerated section, knock it out, open up the canister, you lay it out on your sheet pan. To this, I've got some beautiful cooked Italian sausage. I'm gonna put this spread on top of my bread. I like the way that sounds. I'm gonna get this whole deliciousness started right now. Sausage goes everywhere. I'm feeling the love right here. Look how lucky I got. I measured it just right. And then whatever I didn't measure, there it goes. On top of that, I like to add the mozzarella cheese. A little cheesy goodness. We pull apart that bread, the cheese will be elastic. It's gonna be great. Who says you can't play with your food? I'm gonna play with it. Now, my secret ingredient, Moore's Original Buffalo Sauce. This stuff is delicious. It's fantastic, it's full of flavor, it's award-winning. Look at that pour out, so good. You know, the real punch comes from the cayenne pepper that's in here, and it makes it so delicious. And it's so easy to use. 16 ounces of deliciousness right here in my hand. I just pour it on top of my bread. Wow, that's gonna be so good. You know, when it bakes in to the bread's gonna have this delicious lusciousness that's combined with the cheese and the hot sauce that bring it all together. More is more. Parmesan cheese on top. To that, a little bit of oregano breadcrumb. It's gonna give you a little crunch on top. And then just a little bit of green onion to finish this party. And then a little bit more at the end. Wow, look at that. That's great. Make a little decoration, maybe write your name, your initials. It's gonna be fantastic. Preheated oven. What's going on? 375 degrees. We're gonna pop it inside. And while that bakes, thank you, Magic. The sausage, cheesy, Moore's Original Buffalo Wing Sauce is done. It's so simple, they've done it for you. How about these chicken wings right here? You can go any way you want. You can go traditional. You can go creamy ranch. You can go spicy habanero. Moore's has figured it out. They've given you all the flavors to make your kitchen go right. How about the hot sauce party that goes on over here? We've got jalapeno. We've got habanero. We've got harissa. Harissa is that Middle Eastern pepper. Very nice, very spicy. And don't forget about Colonel Mustard over here. They're all delicious. There's marinades. There's sauces, and there's hot sauces. Moore's covers the gambit. This cheesy bread is perfect. Let me get a little slice of it away. Oh, you can smell that hot sauce. Head to mooresmarinade.com for more information, or visit our website, thebalancingact.com. And don't forget to hashtag #MoreFlavor. Post your recipes. Let me see them. I'm dying. Remember, this has been a quick bite. Woo, that's good.
Wow, what a full show. I learned so much today. Plus, so many yummy recipes. I love that.
Love the food. We love food. We love Facebook. Go to our Facebook page and our website. Follow us on Twitter if you can.
Also, Instagram, @JulieandOlga. You can see lots of fun photos, crazy photos.
Crazy things.
There.
Everything and anything. Thanks for watching, everyone. We'll see you next time.
So long, everybody.